What's up, sons? It's Blind Run from the Son of a Tech channel, and it's been a while since I've posted on my vlog channel for Blind Run. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about moving forward and how you need to be able to do that without looking back, and how to process that information, because it's something I've been dealing with a lot with all of the changes going on in my life. And I kind of came up with a bit of an analogy. I was actually driving my car and realizing that a majority of my focus is on what is in front of me. And while driving, you need to pay attention to that, because that is the direction in which you are moving the quickest. And if you decide to check your rear view mirror or your side mirrors or check for traffic next to you, that's typically when a change is occurring. So kind of the idea here, and this is a popular analogy, is that when you are moving through life, you want to make sure that you keep your head focused forward, and the times to actually check the past and review, the past mistakes that you've made, etc., is not all the time, right? If you were focused completely on the past all the time, you're going to end up wrecking. And you can wreck your life in this manner. It can be very, very difficult, especially when there are changes that are happening that can be extremely emotional. And this is why you see people that fail to progress in their life, especially if there's some sort of mistake that they dwell on for an extended period of time. I've made a lot of mistakes in the past, of course, and I've had to pay those dues and go ahead and, own up to whatever my mistakes were. But then after that, I had to start moving forward, because if I want to be successful, it's important that I continue to press forward and continue to move into the future. I think this is an interesting allegory, an interesting analogy, because it is really easy to see it when you're performing the task of driving a vehicle, and it's a lot more difficult to see it when you're just going through your day-to-day life. Combating the thoughts, especially if they're negative in your head, can also be extremely daunting. These are things that I've dealt with for a long time, and it comes from this little small voice in your head that basically reminds you of all the bad stuff you've done in your life, all the mistakes that you've made, and it can be very easy to go ahead and focus on that. A lot of people will utilize drugs and alcohol and other forms, maybe even distractions such as video games. It really could be anything, or my personal favorite, personal fitness, right? You just go and you work out. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go work out, but if that is something that you're utilizing as a tool to ignore, the thoughts in your head, those thoughts are just going to return. So there's been a few things that I've done in my practices to adjust my mindset, and I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that. And it's adjusting to a positive mindset. As you guys may know, I work in the IT field, as well as kind of just getting to that age as a millennial at 36 years old, where you start to get a bit of that cynicism. And over the past maybe decade, I've had to battle with this cynicism, right? You see the mistakes that other people made, and you're like, why are you making those? And you get cynical about it. In a lot of ways, that's really just you looking at the mistake that they're making and relating that to a mistake that you've made in your life. And it's kind of funny that you would condemn someone or judge someone for that mistake that you actually made just because you already know. The real thing about life is that there are mistakes that you're going to make that you have to learn the lessons from, and nobody else is going to be able to tell you about it. Obviously, in a perfect world, you would be able to read ahead of time all of the mistakes that were potential in your life and not make them. But at the end of the day, that's not the way life works. Some tools that I've utilized in my recent past to continue to move forward, regardless of what has happened in my past, has been everything from meditation to physical activity to, of course, just a reprogramming of my brain when I have negative thoughts. This is one of my favorite things to do is if I have a negative thought, and the way I started out doing this is I would have a journal, and I would have basically just a piece of paper or a notepad. I would write the negative thought down. Then I would write on a separate piece of paper the positive thought down, and I would take the negative version and throw it away. This doesn't matter what it is. And this is where it gets really difficult, that I think people will have a hard time with. It's when you have negative thoughts about other individuals in your life. And this means that when you have these negative thoughts about other individuals in your life and you write down the inverse of that negative thought, your ego is going to fight you so hard. But what you have to realize is at the end of the day, there's probably a strong likelihood that the reason you have that negative thought about that individual is because you have either experienced or done some of the same things that they have, and that's why it's impacting you. And so by doing this in practice, what you start to do also as well is remove the negative thoughts that you have about yourself, which is really the end goal. This puts you in a position where you can become more confident, more extroverted, and just feel better. One of the things that I've read recently was the Almanac of Naval, and he is an angel investor, created Angel List. And in the second part of the Almanac, he discusses essentially this idea that happiness is not something that you are just in a state of happiness or not in a state of happiness, but that you must practice happiness. And so there is a concerted effort within the happiness of your life that is purely due to what you are doing and your actions and how you perceive things. And you can practice removing the negative thoughts, replacing them with positive thoughts. And now at this point, I have a much better time of basically when a negative thought comes in, I can take that negative thought, inverse it, and then just let it pass. In some cases, like in meditation, you may do this practice where you just let the thought come through and pass all the way through. That is another method. I've just found this more practical method to function better. It's really no different than practicing anything else in life, right? Like if you're going to learn a new programming language, you have to understand the way that you're communicating with the computer, and you're going to make notes and write down and review all of the different aspects of that particular language until your brain processes it in that manner. Life is no different. You are going to basically take any inputs, and you're going to reprogram that into a method that allows you to experience more joy in life. And it has been working for me. This is something that I wanted to share with a lot of people because it's something that I struggled with for a very long time. And now that I'm at this point to where I genuinely feel a lot lighter, a lot less burdened, I wanted to share just that very basic, easy thing to do if, in your case, you want to go ahead and figure out one thing you could try to do that would shift your perspective from negative to positive. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next Tuesday.